My stepdaughter and I were alone at home for a week, and everything changed. Okay, throwaway account because, well, obviously, I need to get this off my chest, and I have nowhere else to say it. No friends I can talk to. No therapist I'd trust with this. I don't even know if I want advice. Maybe I just want to confess it somewhere, to someone, even if it's anonymous. Let me start by saying, nothing illegal happened, nothing abusive, nothing that crosses the line in the way you're probably imagining. But something did happen, and it's changed me forever. Maybe both of us. I'm 42. Married to my wife Claire for 8 years now. She's 39, works in healthcare, long shifts, overnight rotations sometimes. We met when her daughter Jenna was around 10. She's 18 now. Just graduated high school. Let me say this clearly. I've never thought of Jenna in that way. Not when she was younger. Not even a year ago. Never even considered it. She was always Claire's daughter first, mine only technically, though I raised her like she was my own. Birthday parties, homework, dance recitals, fights about curfews, you name it. I was there for all of it. But then Claire had to leave. She got called in for an emergency medical relief trip, some post-hurricane volunteer work in Puerto Rico. She was gone for a week, 7 full days and nights. Jenna was home on summer break, and I work from home mostly, so it made sense we just stay put. No big deal. We'd done it before, but this time, I don't know. Something was different. Day one, the silence. It started off normal. We ordered pizza, watched a movie, something dumb on Netflix that Jenna picked. I think it was one of those true crime docuseries. I barely paid attention. Jenna was quieter than usual, not in a bad mood, not upset, just thoughtful. Sitting sideways on the couch, curled up with a blanket even though it wasn't cold. She asked about my work, which she rarely does. How's the project going with that crypto guy? I blinked. You remember that? Yeah, you were complaining about him last week. She remembered something I'd only mentioned once in passing. I smiled, a little surprised. It's going okay. He still wants everything done yesterday, but at least he's paying. She nodded, then paused. Mom says you've been stressed. That caught me off guard. She says that? She worries about you sometimes. I didn't know what to say to that. Jenna turned back to the screen, but I could feel the air had shifted. It wasn't flirtation, not even close. Just an intimacy I wasn't used to. A daughter caring about her stepdad. Nothing wrong with that, right? Day 2, the wine. Jenna asked if I wanted to do a Dad and Jenna dinner night like we used to when Claire worked late shifts. I said sure. She insisted on cooking, made this creamy mushroom pasta dish. It was honestly incredible. She poured a glass of wine for herself and said, "Don't worry, Mom lets me have one sometimes." I raised an eyebrow. Seriously, she laughed. Only when she's home, though. I debated saying no, but then I thought, she's 18, she's home, I'm not her cop. And truthfully, it felt more adult this way. Like we were two people having dinner, not just a stepdad and stepdaughter filling the silence while Mom was away. We talked more than we had in months. About college, her dreams. She wanted to study psychology, but said maybe that was cliché. I think everyone wants to understand themselves, she said, and fix whatever's broken. I asked her what she thought was broken about her. She didn't answer for a long time. Sometimes I feel like I'm in someone else's life, like I'm playing the role of Jenna, but I don't know what she actually wants. I just know what everyone expects. That hit me harder than I expected. Maybe that's just part of growing up, I said. Maybe. But it sucks. We didn't drink much, just the 1 glass each. But it wasn't about the alcohol. It was that shift again. We weren't joking around anymore. She wasn't a kid, and I wasn't just stepdad Mark anymore. I was someone she was looking at differently. Day 3, the photo. Jenna asked if I could help her take some new profile pictures. She said she wanted to update her Instagram and her college application stuff with something better, so I got out the nice camera. We went out in the backyard. The lighting was perfect, golden hour. She wore this loose white shirt and denim shorts. Innocent, summery. She looked like a catalog model, and I hated that I noticed. She posed, then laughed, then got self-conscious. I told her not to worry. "You look great." She turned to look at me, brushing her hair out of her face. "You really think so?" "Of course," I said, meaning it in the most neutral way I could. She stepped closer. "Sometimes I think I'm ugly." I frowned. "You're not even close." "Mom says I'm pretty," she said, her voice a little flat. "But she's supposed to say that." I didn't know where to look. I wanted to change the subject, but she wasn't letting me. "You're beautiful," I said, and then immediately wished I hadn't used that word. But she just smiled and said, "Thanks, Mark." That was the first time she'd called me by my name instead of Dad. The storm. A summer storm rolled in, fast and loud. Thunder cracked so close the house actually shook. The power went out around 9 p.m. I lit some candles. Jenna came down from her room wrapped in a blanket, saying she couldn't sleep with the storm. I was on the couch half watching a movie on my laptop that was dying fast. She sat next to me, close. Too close. We just sat there for a while, the rain hammering the windows. Then she whispered something I couldn't quite hear. "What?" "I used to be scared of storms. When I was little." "You don't sound scared now." She leaned into my shoulder. "I'm not." We didn't say anything for a long time. The only light came from the candles flickering across her face. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her hair was a little damp. She looked like a kid and a woman at the same time. I should have moved. I should have gone upstairs. But I didn't. I just stayed. Eventually, she fell asleep against me. Day 5. The question. The power came back on in the morning. Everything felt normal again. Or maybe I just convinced myself it did. Jenna made pancakes, wore one of Claire's oversized t-shirts. It felt like we were pretending to be a couple playing house. That thought scared me a little, but I didn't say anything. While we ate, she asked, "Do you ever wonder what your life would have been like if you didn't marry Mom?" I blinked. Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I was older when we met. 34. I'd dated around. Nothing stuck. But you don't regret it? No, not at all. She looked down at her plate. I wonder what it's like to be married, to be wanted like that. You'll find out, I said quickly. You've got your whole life ahead. Maybe. But I don't know if I'll ever trust someone enough. That hit harder than I expected. What do you mean? She hesitated. Most guys don't actually see me, she said. They see this version of me they've made up in their head. The hot girl, the cool girl, whatever. But no one ever really sees me. I didn't know what to say. Then she looked right at me and asked, "Do you see me?" Day 6. The touch. This is where it gets blurry. We didn't kiss. There was no line crossed. But something passed between us that night that I can't ignore. We were watching another movie. Some coming-of-age thing she picked. Lots of awkward teenage romance. She curled up next to me again, half under the same blanket. Her arm brushed mine, just slightly, then again, then stayed there. I didn't move. Her head was on my shoulder. Her breath was warm. Her skin smelled like the vanilla lotion Claire always uses. She shifted slightly and our hands touched. Fingers, then nothing. But in that, nothing was everything. My heart was racing, my throat dry. She looked up at me, eyes wide and unreadable. I stood up and said I had to go to bed, didn't even look back. Day 7. The goodbye. Claire came home late the next afternoon. I greeted her, helped unpack. Jenna stayed in her room most of the evening. Later I heard them talking. Quiet voices, laughter, familiar and safe. Claire came into the living room and kissed me on the cheek. Thanks for holding down the fort. Of course. She smiled, then paused. Jenna said she had a good week with you. Yeah, I said. Me too. And that was it. Or at least, that's what I want to believe. Because ever since then, things have not gone back to normal. Not even close. Week later, the glance. I wish I could say everything snapped back to normal. That I shook it off, chalked it up to a weird, emotional week. But that's not what happened. The next few days were strange. Jenna avoided me. Not in a hostile way. Just careful. Almost rehearsed. She was polite, did the dishes, kept to her room. Claire didn't notice anything. She was exhausted from the trip, getting back into her work rhythm. She'd go to bed early, leaving the house in silence. That's when it got hard. One night I caught Jenna watching me. I was in the kitchen making tea. She walked in behind me and just stood there. When I turned, she didn't flinch, just stared for a beat too long. Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. Hey, she echoed. She walked to the fridge, took out a water bottle, then turned toward the stairs. And then, right at the bottom, she paused. Do you ever think about that week? She asked, not turning around. My stomach clenched. What do you mean? I don't know, she said quickly. Never mind. She disappeared upstairs, door clicking behind her. But of course I thought about it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. A message I shouldn't have answered a few nights later. I was in bed, scrolling Reddit like a zombie. I'd had a long day of work and no patience for Claire's new obsession with true crime podcasts. She was already asleep beside me. At 12:34 a.m., my phone buzzed. Jenna. I hesitated before I opened it. Jenna, you up? I stared at the screen, heart pounding. This wasn't normal. She never texted me late. She never even called me you in texts. She'd always said you before, like a teen. This was different. I responded, me. Yeah, what's up? 3 dots. Then nothing. Then finally, Jenna. Just thinking about stuff. I should have stopped. I should have said, try to get some sleep. But instead, I replied, me. Me too. The conversation was slow. Cautious, but under it all, there was something unsaid threading each message together. A tension neither of us acknowledged, but both of us fed. Eventually, she wrote, Jenna. It felt safe. That week. I didn't respond. I couldn't. But I didn't delete the message either. Claire starts noticing. Claire brought it up while we were cleaning out the garage. Have you noticed Jenna's weird lately? I pretended to be confused. What do you mean? She's quieter. I don't know. I thought maybe she was just growing up, but something feels off. Like she's holding something back. Maybe it's college nerves, I offered. Claire nodded, chewing her lip. Yeah, maybe. Then she looked at me and said something that froze my blood. She really looks up to you, you know. Like really. I've always been glad for that. You're a good influence on her. I forced a smile. Thanks. Inside, I was screaming. Was the night she knocked. It was 2 weeks later. Claire was working an overnight shift. I was downstairs watching some mindless show, trying to burn time until I could sleep. At 11:43 p.m., I heard soft footsteps. Jenna. She didn't say anything, just stood near the kitchen waiting. Then she asked, "Can we talk?" I muted the TV. Of course. She sat on the arm of the couch, not next to me, not too far either. Legs crossed, hair pulled up, wearing an old band t-shirt. Her face was unreadable. "Do you regret anything?" she asked. That was it. No preamble, no explanation. "From that week?" I said. She nodded. "I don't know," I said carefully. "Sometimes, but not in the way you think." "How do I think?" I exhaled. "I think you believe I'm a creep. That I crossed a line. That I looked at you the wrong way. That I shouldn't have let things get weird." "They did get weird," she said quietly. "But not wrong," she added just as softly. That silence between us was louder than thunder. "I'm not a little girl anymore," she said. "I know." I whispered. She stood and walked away. No hug, no glance, just left me sitting there, staring at nothing. The Polaroid 3 days later, Claire and Jenna were out shopping. I was working from home setting up invoices. Printer wasn't working, so I went into Jenna's room to use the older one she kept by her desk. I wasn't snooping. I swear to God I wasn't. But when I turned on the printer, I noticed something stuck in the paper tray. A photo, a Polaroid. Jenna in her mirror, wearing a fitted black dress, hair down, lips slightly parted. She was holding her phone in one hand, but her eyes were locked on the lens. On me somehow. I froze. I shouldn't have looked. Shouldn't have even picked it up. But I did. There was something written in Sharpie on the back. Just in case you forgot. I put it back exactly where I found it, but it might as well have been seared into my brain. Avoidance, then escalation. I tried to avoid her after that. For real. No late-night conversations, no cooking together. I even left the house more, took walks, ran errands I didn't need to run. Claire didn't suspect anything, but Jenna, she knew. She started pushing it. Not in big ways, little ones. Wearing my hoodie to breakfast, standing too close behind me at the sink, making jokes that toe the line, then saying, "Relax, I'm kidding." She wasn't. The worst part? I started noticing everything about her. How different she looked from the girl I used to drive to ballet class. How smart she was. How grown. How broken in ways I wanted to fix. God, I hate myself for that. Claire's Trip Part 2. 2 months later, Claire had to fly to Boston for a training seminar. Just a weekend, Friday to Sunday. Nothing major. But as soon as she told us at dinner, I felt the shift again. Jenna caught my eye. No smile, just a look. One I couldn't define and couldn't forget. I told myself I'd make plans, be busy, stay out of the house. But Friday came, and I was still there. So was she. That Friday, the turning point. We didn't plan to spend time together, but she came into my office around 6:30 p.m. holding 2 takeout bags. "Thai," she offered, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. We sat on the floor in the living room, ate silently for a while. Then she said, "Did you know I almost told Mom?" I froze mid-chew. Told her what? About the week, about the storm, the photo. I swallowed hard. Why didn't you? Because I don't want to ruin this family, and because I knew she'd never understand. I stared at her. Understand what? That sometimes connections aren't logical. I dropped my fork. "You're my stepdaughter," I said, more to remind myself than her. "You're not my blood," she said calmly. "That doesn't make it okay." She nodded. "I know. But it doesn't make it fake either." We didn't touch. We didn't speak after that. She went to her room. I barely slept. The final day Sunday morning. Claire's flight was due back at noon. Jenna knocked on my door around 9. I expected more tension, more awkwardness, but she was calm. Peaceful, almost. "I'm going to college in 2 weeks," she said. I nodded. "Things will go back to normal." "I hope so," I said. She looked at me one last time and whispered, "I just wanted you to know." I never felt seen before that week. And then she walked away. Back to now. That was 3 months ago. Jenna left for college. She calls Claire sometimes. Rarely texts me. When she does, it's short, polite. No trace of the girl from that week. But I still think about it. Every night. I still hear her voice in my head. "Do you see me?" And I still don't know the answer. The void. After Jenna's last message, I'm letting go. The silence was absolute. No calls, no photos, no updates in the group chat. Not even birthday wishes when mine came around in early March. Claire didn't seem to notice, or maybe she just chalked it up to college stress. I could tell she missed her daughter but wasn't panicked. She figured Jenna was busy, distracted, learning to live her own life. But I knew better. She was cutting me out, completely. And that was the right thing to do. Still, the right thing doesn't always feel good. Dreams I don't talk about some nights. I still dream of that stormy night. Not in a sexual way. It's quieter than that, subtler. In the dream, she's beside me again, head on my shoulder, breathing slow and steady. The power's out. The house is dim and warm. There's no future, no past, just that moment. Then I wake up, and I feel like I've lost something I never should have had to begin with. And the guilt hits me all over again. I didn't kiss her, I didn't touch her, but I felt something I wasn't supposed to feel. And that's the kind of sin that doesn't show up on the outside, but festers inside your soul. Claire's growing distance. Claire's different now too. She doesn't touch me as much, doesn't laugh as easily. She still sleeps beside me, still texts me, "Love you," in the afternoons. But something's broken between us. I can feel it in the way she looks past me when I talk, or how often she scrolls her phone during dinner. I asked her once carefully, "Are we okay?" She paused for a long time before answering. "We're functional," she said. "Stable." That word hit me like a slap. We used to be passionate, messy, intimate, real. Now we're just stable. And I don't know if that's worse than being broken. A letter from Jenna. It came in April. A real letter. Envelope. Stamp. My name in her handwriting. I opened it in the garage of all places. Just sat on the tool bench and unfolded it slowly like I was defusing a bomb. The letter read, "Mark, I needed to say this somewhere outside of texts and memories, so I'm writing it down, even if it's old-fashioned and awkward. That week changed me. It wasn't just about you. It was about how I saw myself. How I realized I wasn't invisible, or just someone's daughter. You didn't do anything wrong, but you also didn't stop everything that was happening. You let something grow in the silence between us. I don't hate you for it. Honestly, I think I'll always love you a little, but I can't carry it anymore. Not if I'm ever going to become my own person. I want to be seen by someone who isn't haunted by the sight of me. I hope you understand. Jenna." I read it 3 times. Then I folded it neatly and placed it back in the envelope. I haven't opened it again since. Claire finds the letter. 2 weeks later, I came home from a grocery run and Claire was sitting at the table, her face pale, the letter in front of her. I didn't even have to ask. She looked up, eyes glassy. "How long?" "Claire." "How long, Mark?" I sat down, quiet, still. "A year," I said. "Nothing happened, I swear, but there were feelings, from both of us." She didn't yell, didn't throw anything, didn't cry even. She just sat there and said, "I always knew you looked at her differently. I never meant for any of it." "I believe you," she said, cutting me off. "That's what makes it worse." Then she stood up and left the room. She stayed at her sister's that night. Fallout. It's been 5 months. Claire and I are still technically married, but we're more like roommates than spouses now. No intimacy, no shared future plans. Just 2 people maintaining a home out of obligation and fear of what comes next. Jenna and I haven't spoken since the letter. Not once. Not even when Claire broke down and confessed everything to her over the phone. Because yes, eventually she did. Jenna told her the truth. That I never touched her. That we never crossed that final line. But she didn't defend me. Didn't try to salvage anything. She just said, "Tell him I forgive him, but I'm not coming home again." The quiet epilogue. So here I am, sitting on the back porch. It's mid-July again, almost a year to the day since that week. There's a storm on the horizon. I can smell the rain coming. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd done something differently. Shut it down sooner. Left the house that week. Changed the subject when things got blurry. But I didn't. And now I live with the weight of that. Every day. The real question. I told you at the start that nothing illegal happened. No laws were broken. But here's the thing. Some damage doesn't show up in court records. Some boundaries, once crossed in the heart, leave scars that don't fade. So the real question isn't, did I cross a line? It's, what kind of man am I, knowing I almost did?